A few years ago, an elephant matriarch named Eleanor collapsed in Amboseli National Park, Kenya. What happened next stunned researchers. Other elephants came, not just to look. They tried to lift her with their tusks, rocking her body, pushing against her, trying to get her back on her feet. When that failed, they stood guard. One female, from a different family group entirely, returned to the body again and again over several days, gently touching it with her trunk, even after everyone else had moved on. Was she grieving? Did she understand what death meant? Or is that just us projecting human meaning onto something simpler? Let's start with what we actually know. In 2008, primatologist James Anderson documented something remarkable in a group of captive chimpanzees in Scotland. An elderly female named Pansy stopped eating, and the rest of the group changed almost immediately. They groomed her more gently. They stayed close even when she couldn't reciprocate. When she died, one of the younger chimps cleaned her teeth with a piece of straw, a grooming gesture normally reserved for the living. Afterward, the whole group avoided the spot where she died for days, even though nothing about that location had physically changed. Crows do something even stranger. When a crow finds a dead crow, it calls. Within minutes, others arrive, sometimes dozens, circling and cawing over the body in what researchers call a funeral. At the University of Washington, scientists placed taxidermy crows in different spots and tracked how live crows responded. Weeks later, the crows were still avoiding those exact locations, as if the spot itself had become marked as dangerous. So animals clearly respond to death. That part isn't in dispute, but responding to death and understanding your own mortality are completely different things. And this is where it gets genuinely hard. Psychologists call the second part mortality salience. Not just knowing death exists out there somewhere, but knowing it will happen to you, specifically in your personal future. And that requires something most animals may not have, a mental model of yourself persisting through time, with a future you can imagine ending. Here's where it gets strange. In the 1970s, psychologist Gordon Gallup developed the mirror test. Researchers place a mark somewhere on an animal's body it can't see directly, then put it in front of a mirror. If the animal investigates the mark on itself, rather than treating the reflection as a stranger, that's evidence of self-recognition. Almost nothing passes. Chimpanzees, orangutans, dolphins, elephants, and magpies are rare exceptions. Dogs and cats never get there. Show a dog a mirror, and it reacts to the other dog for its entire life. Why does this matter for death? Because to fear your own death, you first need a concept of you that exists across time. An animal with no continuous sense of self, no story of, I was here yesterday, I'll be here tomorrow, may have no framework for understanding its own ending. Not because it can't feel fear, but because dread of a future personal non-existence requires a self sitting in that future to be afraid for. This is where dolphins get fascinating. They pass the mirror test. Each dolphin has something like a name, a unique signature whistle others use to identify it, sometimes recalled decades later. And there are documented cases of mother dolphins carrying dead calves on their backs for days, refusing to let them sink, pushing the body back to the surface again and again as it decomposes. Is that grief? Or something that looks identical to grief from the outside, but feels like nothing at all on the inside? A 2018 review in the journal Animal Cognition surveyed dozens of these cases across elephants, primates, cetaceans, and birds, proposing a field called thanatology, the study of how animals respond to death. Its conclusion was careful. The behaviors share real structure with human mourning, proximity to the body, reduced activity, repeated visits, but whether there's an inner experience behind any of it is something science currently has no way to test. We can observe the behavior, we can't observe what's behind it. And that gap is exactly where this question lives. There's one more piece, and it might be the strangest: octopuses. Most octopus species die shortly after reproducing, often within days. Their bodies break down in a process called senescence. Skin develops lesions. They stop eating. And here's the part that sounds impossible. In lab studies, removing a specific gland, the optic gland, from a dying octopus could delay the entire process. The countdown to death wasn't caused by age or injury. It was a built-in program, switched on like a timer. Does the octopus know it's dying? Almost certainly not. Not in any sense involving fear or anticipation. No internal narrative. No goodbye. Just a genetic switch flipping on schedule and a body following instructions it has no awareness of receiving. And maybe that's the real answer underneath this whole question. For most animals, death isn't a concept they carry around. It's not feared in advance or mourned in the abstract. It's something that happens. For the animals nearby, it registers as absence, a smell that changes, a body that stops moving and never starts again. Watch a herd of zebras when a lion is stalking nearby. Some are tense and alert. Others just feet away, calmly graze. The moment the danger passes, even the alert ones go right back to eating, as if nothing happened. No lingering dread, no replaying the close call, no worrying about tomorrow's lion. The threat existed, then it didn't, and their internal state snaps back immediately. Compare that to a human after a near-miss car accident. We don't just feel relief and move on, we replay it. We feel shaky hours later. We carry it forward into an imagined future where it might happen again. That's the difference. Humans don't just respond to death. We carry the knowledge of our own eventual death with us every day, often for decades before it arrives. We grieve our own future endings in advance and build entire belief systems around managing that knowledge. As far as anyone can tell, no other species does this. Not even the ones that mourn their dead. Not even the ones that pass the mirror test. So back to Eleanor, the elephant matriarch in Amboseli. The elephants that came to her, that tried to lift her, that stood guard for days, were almost certainly experiencing something real, something connected to loss and to a disruption in the social world they understood. Elephants have shown this again and again, visiting the bones of dead relatives years later, gently touching skulls, in a way they never do with bones of elephants they weren't related to. But there's a difference between mourning someone else's death and fearing your own. The female elephant standing over Eleanor's body was almost certainly not, in that moment, thinking about her own death, contemplating that one day she too would be the still body others gathered around. That kind of forward-looking, self-directed dread seems to require exactly the kind of continuous self-model that almost nothing on Earth has except us. Maybe that's not a deficiency on the animal's part. Maybe it's the opposite. Humans spend enormous mental energy managing the knowledge that we're going to die. It shapes our religions, our ambitions, our anxieties, the way we raise children, the way we spend our limited time. It's arguably one of the most defining features of being human and one of the heaviest. An elephant grieving a death right in front of her without the added weight of knowing her own ending is coming too might not be missing something. She might just be living without a burden most of us never get to put down.